Well, this particular episode of Star Wars Rebels didn't really have any sort of ambitions to be any kind of cerebral episode or any kind of deep character study. It was partially meant to move the overarching story along, that being the rebels and their ability to continue their activities on Lothal, while at the same time striving to be a fun adventure episode with a little bit of character development. Now, not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I'm guessing if this show were to have a little bit more of a cerebral aspect, then or a cerebral element really forcing the characters to look inwards, then I think we would have a great show on our hands instead of simply a very good one. But again, that could change. And again, I'm not saying that what I'm suggesting is the only path to being a great show, but I digress. This episode, the plot this time around is the rebels finally receive another transmission from this guy, this senator who keeps speaking out against the Empire. I forget his name, but I'm just gonna call him Senator Brent Spiner because he kind of looks like Brent Spiner. He's voiced by Brent Spiner, so I'm just gonna call him Brent Spiner. So Brent Spiner sends them another transmission speaking out against the Empire, and he basically, in his message, he basically leaves sort of encoded in there a location for a secret meeting. The rebels plan to go to the secret meeting until Ezra finds out from one of his old contacts from his cadet episode, which I'm glad that that was not necessarily a one-off, how they are using what they set up there with Ezra's friend, but Ezra finds out from his cadet friend that the Empire does indeed know about the secret meeting location, and the rebels go to warn the senator. Now, there are a few twists and turns which I don't want to spoil, but first of all, I really did enjoy myself watching this episode for a few reasons. A, we get some more insight into what happened to Ezra's parents. Possibly. There is still a little bit of a shroud of mystery going on, but what I said earlier about possibly advancing the overall story, they bring back this character, this senator who has basically been cameoing, or not even cameoing, sort of audio cameoing in previous episodes as this sort of beacon for the rebels to rally behind. They listen to this guy and how he's openly speaking out against the Empire, and they're sort of inspired, and that's really tackled here, and I'm glad that they brought that up in an episode that basically revolves around this guy. Now, this is a big spoiler alert. If you want my encapsulated review, it's very good. I recommend watching the episode. So, I'm just going to put a quick spoiler alert here. It turns out that this Senator Brent Spiner, is actually an Imperial agent. He lures rebel insurgents into his clutches and then betrays them to the Empire. So he's basically, it's actually not a bad plan once you think about it. If you take out the fact that the rebels are somewhat gullible, but yeah, actually having this guy, this beacon of hope, this sort of, I don't want to say Martin Luther King style figure, but definitely this public figure of inspiration, having him turn out to be a turncoat can really pave the way for some interesting conflict later on. Not just because they have really no one to rally behind now, but in addition, they are left again without an ally, and this is a group who has been desperately seeking allies since the beginning of the show. I mean, they are just kind of a ragtag crew of smugglers, thieves, of misfits, really, and their first real shot at gaining a powerful, influential ally has basically crumbled out from beneath them. So that could provide for some interesting stories later on. And in addition, tying that in with Ezra's parents and how they were outspoken against the Empire, and look what happened to them, that made for some fairly interesting character material for Ezra, even though it really wasn't anything new. I mean, we knew that his parents were against the Empire, and we could probably predict what happened to them. But again, seeing that how that affected Ezra, I think really progressed a little bit in this episode. So that was good. And in addition, we still have the high flying adventure aspect. It seems like these actors and the writers are really growing more comfortable with these characters and their dynamics. I don't really think the characters, or let me put it this way, I don't think these side characters or the characters on the Ghost who the episode is not about, I don't think they are getting shortchanged nearly as much. We are able to discern more of their personalities through small interactions in these more recent episodes than I think we could at the beginning of the series. So props to the writers and the voice actors. So there's that, and also the animation has remained fairly good. In fact, the animation is actually pretty impressive, and I know some people have kind of attacked this show specifically before it aired. Some people kind of attacked it as looking a little bit too Disney-fied. I myself included really had sort of a problem with the animation style, the designs of everything, even though it was based on artwork by Ralph McQuarrie. I just thought it looked a little bit too cartoonish, but it seems like they're finding somewhat of a balance between the gradients and the shadows and the less textured, more cartoonish aspects of the show, like I don't know, characters' skin. There's not really a whole lot of texture to characters' skin or what's on their face. Whereas on the Clone Wars, they got dirty. You even saw a little bit of stubble on the clones' faces towards the end of the show. So the animation is not quite as, or not nearly as detailed as the Clone Wars, but again, I can't really fault the show on that, seeing as the animation itself, not the design, the animation is so smooth and so pleasing to the eye. I'm really coming over to this show's side in terms of the animation. So yeah, this was a fairly accomplished episode. Really paved the way for some potentially compelling stories regarding the overall arc of the rebellion, or lack thereof at this point. And yeah, that's about it, or at least that's about all I can think of. Oh, and the guest stars, I have to mention Brent Spiner. He did a good job, as did the rest of the voice cast, in my opinion. David Oyelowo, I probably butchered his name, but the Martin Luther King guy. I really only know him from supporting roles, but he does a good job in this show. And with the potential for him to become a big name in Hollywood with the slew of hits that he's been getting lately, I'm surprised that they're still able to get him for a Disney cartoon show. So I don't know whether or not that'll continue as a topic for another day. I'm already trailing off into a lot of side conversations and thinking out loud, so I'm just going to end the video here.